A 52-year-old man is standing outside a small burger stand in California. He's not hungry. He's confused. One question won't leave his head. How does a tiny drive-in smaller than most gas stations need 8 milkshake machines? Enough to make 40 shakes at once? He walks in to find out. What he sees inside will end up feeding billions of people, changing how an entire country eats, drives, and lives. But the two men who built it? By the end of this story, they'll lose their own name. Before the Golden Arches, before billions of burgers sold, there were just two brothers, Richard and Maurice McDonald, running a drive-in nobody outside California had heard of. 1940, San Bernardino. A restaurant that looked exactly like every other drive-in of the time, car hops on roller skates, plates, silverware, a bloated menu, and slow, clumsy service. It made money. But the brothers noticed something the rest of the industry didn't. Almost all of their profit came from three things: hamburgers, fries, and drinks. Everything else was dead weight. So in 1948, they did something that made zero sense to anyone watching. They shut the whole restaurant down. For 3 months, they fired every car hop, threw out the plates and silverware for paper wrapping and cups, slashed the menu from dozens of items down to just 9. When the doors reopened, they gave it a name, the Speedee Service System. No waiters, no sitting down. Order at the window, burgers already made, wrapped, ready in seconds. A meal that used to take 30 minutes now took 30 seconds. The price dropped to 15 cents a burger. Their own father told them they were destroying the business. Instead, cars started lining up around the block. By the early 1950s, word had spread. Restaurant owners were driving hundreds of miles just to stand outside the McDonald brothers' kitchen and watch it work. And one product they couldn't order enough of? Milkshake mixers. A machine called the multi-mixer. Most restaurants bought 1, maybe 2. The McDonald brothers bought 8, enough to spin 40 shakes at once. That number found its way to a traveling salesman named Ray Kroc. Kroc wasn't just curious. He was 52, restless, and quietly certain his best years in business hadn't happened yet. When he finally stood inside the Speedee system and watched it move, the speed, the precision, the line of cars that never stopped, he later described it like a religious experience. He asked the brothers one question: why isn't this everywhere? They'd tried franchising before, on a small scale, and hated managing it from a distance. So they made Kroc an offer instead: become their man. Take it national. Kroc said yes before they finished the sentence. It would become one of the most consequential handshakes in American business history. 1955, Kroc opens his own franchised McDonald's in Des Plaines, Illinois, a quiet suburb outside Chicago. He wasn't just selling burgers, he was obsessed with control. He built a rule book so strict that a fry in California had to taste identical to one in New Jersey. Same cook time, same portion, same wrapper, every single time, no exceptions. He called it TCC and V: quality, service, consistency, value. Franchise owners who cut corners got removed. No warnings. This obsession is exactly what separated McDonald's from every diner and burger joint before it. You didn't just know what you'd get. You could predict it in any city, any state, every time. And 1950s America was the perfect place for that idea to catch fire. Families were flooding into new suburbs. Highways were multiplying. More Americans owned cars than ever in history. The whole country was speeding up, and McDonald's speed matched it exactly. By the end of the decade, Kroc had opened hundreds of locations. The Golden Arches, introduced in 1953, had already become one of the most recognizable symbols in the country. Here's the part most people never hear. As McDonald's exploded under Kroc, tension with the founders grew. Kroc wanted total control, faster expansion, bigger decisions, zero interference. The brothers, who still legally owned the name and the original restaurant, kept saying no. 1961, Kroc made his move. He offered to buy them out completely, $2.7 million. Sounds like a fortune, and by 1960 standards, it was. But the deal had a hole buried in it. The brothers were also promised a percentage of all future profits, a promise made only out loud, never in writing. They signed anyway. Kroc walked away with the name, the systems, Everything they'd spent over a decade building. The promised percentage? They never saw a single dollar of it. It got worse. Part of the deal stripped them of the rights to their own original restaurant's name. Kroc opened a competing McDonald's practically across the street from their original San Bernardino location and forced them to rebrand their own store. The two men who invented the entire system a global empire was built on ended up watching it grow from the outside, with nothing but a check that never delivered what it promised. Richard McDonald said years later that meeting Ray Kroc was the biggest regret of his life. By the time Kroc died in 1984, McDonald's had grown into thousands of locations across the world. Today, it's one of the largest restaurant companies on the planet. But the real impact was never just the size of the company. It's what it changed about how an entire country lives. McDonald's didn't just sell burgers, it sold speed as a lifestyle. It normalized eating in your car. It built a model franchising with total standardization that thousands of other industries would go on to copy. Hotels, gyms, coffee shops, retail chains. It reshaped small towns and highway exits across the country, one identical set of golden arches at a time. For better or worse, the way Americans eat, travel, and expect instant convenience today, all of it traces back to two brothers who threw out their plates and simplified a menu in 1948. The idea that reshaped a country came from a small drive and almost nobody's ever heard of. If you want the next hidden origin story, like how Coca-Cola was originally sold as medicine, hit follow so you don't miss it.